Okay, we'll start tonight's City of Olivet's Planning Community Design Commission for March 7th to order. So thank everybody. Thanks to everybody for attendance. Mr. Secretary, would you please call the roll?
Absolutely. Member Sam Wallach.
Present.
Member Daniel Rosenberg.
Present.
Member Tim Spiegelglass.
Present.
Member Laura Ragsdale.
Present.
Secretary Brian Lewis, present. Vice Chairman Carol Wagner.
Present.
And Chairman Robert Jerkow.
Present. Well, we have a full house tonight, which is great. And we also have in attendance a full house with our commission. So that's great. Also, those in attendance are City Council Liaison, Councilmember Missy Waldman, as well as staff liaisons, Carlos Trejo, Director of Olivet's Planning Community Development Department, and Jack Carswell, Planning and Zoning Administrator. Dawn Doty's on vacation, Carlos, is that right? Okay, so somebody has to remind everybody when we're not using the microphone, okay? So be on the lookout. All right. Okay, thanks everybody for being in attendance. We appreciate you being here. And just to let you know how we go through our procedures. We follow an agenda item, and so we go through items one by one on the agenda. Some of the agenda items are just kind of some for discussion, but a lot of them are related to petitions, such as a lot of you in the audience might be a part of. When we get to those items, we'll typically have a staff report to present the item to us. There'll be some discussions among commission members with staff. And then we typically bring on the petitioner to kind of help answer some of the questions that we might have or add any additional information. We also then take on public comments related to those petition items as well. We do ask that the petition items be limited to no more than 3 minutes, just to be respectful for everybody's time and to make sure everybody's opinions get heard. Sometimes we have a full house, and so that's very, very important. If there's something that you just need to wrap up, I'll give you a signal and we'll let you know. For those who are in attendance via Zoom, there's a place on the screen where you can raise your hand. So if you have a public comment that you want to give to that item, make sure that you click on that raise hand, and then we can bring you up as a panelist. We do ask you to make sure that your mic and video are on by default. By default, those are not on. So it'll help speed things up if you can be looking for that, so we don't have to wait for you. And if you do have a public comment that's related to an item that's not on the agenda, we do have an item for that, and that will be next. But we do ask those just be limited to items not on the agenda. And then if you have a comment related to that agenda item, you wait until the proper time. So, all right, appreciate it. Carlos, did I catch everything?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Yes, sir, you did.
Good, good, good. So we'll move on to public comments. Is there anybody in the audience or online via Zoom that has a public comment related to something not on the new business or other business agenda items? Seeing none in the audience, Carlos, can you please check online?
There is currently nobody online, sir.
Oh, well, that's unique. All right, so we'll move on to item 3.
Chairman, I'm going to ask before we get into the discussions on the comprehensive plan, there was a couple of agenda items I had to add on there. And we do have representatives here for each of those.
Great.
2 of them, I hope the commission will find short, and then a third one will be about an extension. I asked if the commission would be willing to consider to get those out of the way before continuing, or to set a specific time to be done.
That sounds great.
All right. Thank you, Chairman.
Do we need a motion to revise the agenda?
Probably to be official. Yeah, we should.
There is a note on the agenda that these items may not be considered in order. So it's up to the commission. I mean, I think it's good to note it.
Were there item, I mean, is it, are we just moving them up or?
Correct. Yes,
Oh, okay.
just
So
asking.
they're on the agenda item.
Yes,
We're just gonna change
absolutely,
it.
yes.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
I think that's great.
so we're gonna start with new business.
Okay, we'll start with new business and we'll go on to item A, 9115 and 9175 Olive Crossing, lots 1 and 2. Carlos?
Chairman, I would hope everyone's familiar with the Olive Crossing development at the corner of I-170 and Olive at the southeast corner. In our December meeting, we approved the petition to build an Aldi grocery store on the lot grounds of Lot 1 and Lot 2. And that was approved by the commission. In order for them to proceed through permitting, we need to get rid of the property line that separates those two lots and combine them into one lot. You may recall this scenario was presented by the petitioner back in 2021 and prior. So that kind of serves as a like a preliminary plat. They are going to combine to facilitate the Aldi's development lots 1 and 2 here into Lot A. In there, part of that process would also take back some of the right of way along Olive Boulevard, because currently there's an apron in there. By removing that apron, we're furthering our goals from the 2006 comprehensive plan and even on our current Olive Boulevard master concept plan and our 2024 comprehensive plan update of improving the traffic flows along Olive Boulevard. It'll also remove some easements in there that ran in between the two property lines that no longer will exist. What's before you is the final boundary adjustment plat. That is really just a legal instrument that is used to get the properties legally recorded with St. Louis County. So the process and the requirements of those are established by the state. We have our ordinance that identifies what's necessary, and it's very minimal. So you won't see any structures, you won't see any streets. You'll just see the dedicated easements, the information regarding each individual lot. This is all information that would be required by the county recorder in order to make officially a Lot A on the property grounds. The role of the commission is to recommend this to the city council. The city council adopts, would consider adoption of Lot A through an ordinance in there. Be glad to answer any specific questions in there. And again, this is just the legal instrument that would be recorded to establish Lot A. It has nothing to do with the development of Lot A, which the commission approved back in December.
Carol?
Carlos, could you go over what the removal of the apron involves?
Sure. We
I just want to make sure that I understand.
yes. Bear with me and
And one other question, does that match up along Olive similar to Lot 3?
yes, because Lot 3 will be here on your right-hand side.
Mhm.
The apron, Commissioner Wagner, is right here. That would allow a road access right between Price on the left and the extension of Hilltop Drive on the right. There was when this was going to be two separate lots, there was going to be a roadway that ran through the middle in here. Note that if you were to exit on this, you would be required to do only a right because there's a median right in the middle of Olive. Typically, I've seen them referred to, they call them pork chops because there's an actual island in the middle in the shape of a T in there. Now, I'll take you back to the plat here. This is the original plat that kind of shows how that apron would have come off on Olive and entered in this area right here. Since there's no longer going to be a road, that property line will now run parallel with Olive in a straight direction. Is that? I do have better visuals on that if you want to see something different, but that addresses what you were looking for.
Yeah.
And then I will also show you in the plat here, that road would have been, here's the Aldi, would have been somewhere around here. And now that sidewalk will be reconnected in a contiguous form, and then the street decorations and trees will be aligned, so it wouldn't be noticeable that there was once an apron there.
Okay, and removing it, the apron precludes a curb cut there, which would further.
That's correct, where it
thing.
makes it consistent with the Olive Boulevard master conceptual plan.
Okay.
Anyone else have any further questions or comments?
Just for the record, I'll know that there is a representative here for the boundary adjustment plat, and if there's any questions or so.
Does anybody have any questions or, to the petitioner? Seeing none, I think we could look for a motion. Oh, thank you, Tim. Appreciate it. Is there any public comments related to this item? Seeing none in the audience, and I assume that we still have no one online?
No, sir.
Okay, good. So now,
Mr.
we'll
Chairman,
go ahead, Kara.
I'd like to motion to recommend approval of the petition for a boundary adjustment plat, which would combine lots 1 and 2 of the Olive Crossing subdivision as presented in the memorandum from the Department of Planning and Community Development dated March 7, 2024, subject to any staff recommendations or conditions noted herein.
Motion's been made by Kara Wagner. Do I hear a second?
Second.
And seconded by Tim Spiegelglass. Carlos, you please call the vote.
Commissioner Wallach,
Approved.
Commissioner,
Approved. Approved.
Commissioner Ragsdale,
Approved.
Commissioner Lewis,
Approved.
Commissioner Wagner,
Approved.
and Chairman Jurgel.
Approved.
The motion passes unanimously 7-0. The next step in the petition process would be that this will be forwarded to the city council and considered at their March 12th meeting. That's next Tuesday. Okay.
Okay, good. Thanks for being in attendance. Okay, we'll move on to the next item, and this is item B of new business.
Or should I go?
1341 North Price Road. Carlos?
Chairman, we have a petition from the Murphy Company to add a 5,500 square foot expansion to their existing manufacturing facility at 1341 North Price Road. That property is located on the far north end of North Price Road in the Dealman Price Industrial Park. In there, it's almost at the terminus of that street, and that abuts, the city of Overland and the government property, federal government property to the north, or in the Pear Creek, in there. This is an extension of Price Road that you see here on your PowerPoint presentation. This is the building here. It's 1341. They fabricate some of the HVAC components that they utilize here at the site. Murphy is corporate headquarters are here, located in the city of Olivet. They have been there for a long time. They have their executive offices and engineering offices here at 1223. They own several properties here on North Price Road, including 1400, 1341, and 1233 North Price Road, and they have well over 400 employees that operate out of this facility, or this campus, I'll call it, in there. This is the building, the 1341, that they operate or do their current fabrication. And this is the addition that they would have to that building. It's about 5,500 square feet that would be enclosed. It is a sprinkler building. All that would, of course, would be compliant with the current building codes and all that. And then they would add a covered extension here of approximately 1,500 square feet. Right now, they have a covered area kind of exists in the area that they're enclosing in there. So in total, they would have 5,500 square feet of enclosed area, and then an additional 15,000 square feet of roofed area that I'll label as a canopy. You have pictures of the elevations and the drawings. They did do a pretty extensive job to provide the information for the commission for tonight's meeting in there. What I'll give is some background to the commission about the process, and I thought it was worthy just to bring them to the commission through this, and you can debate whether the commission action is necessary or not. Based on our zoning ordinance, any improvement in the light industrial district that doesn't require a change in zoning is exempt from site plan review. So they're not here for site plan review. Now, the commission always has the authority to impose a site plan review if they feel that there is a concern that a petition has and all that, but we have to be able to justify it in certain rails. But in this case, no site plan review is required. Pretty much everything else that before a permit is issued in non-commercial requires community design review, meaning that you're under chapter 425 and they're coming to you as kind of like the architectural review board in there after staff has confirmed that everything else zoning wise is met. Now, there is an exemption in chapter 425 that indicates that if there is no increase in required parking, they're exempt from going through chapter 425. Murphy owns, at least 3 parcels within that area, and they have well over, I think I counted 400 stalls that's listed in your report, well above that what's necessary. But they're scattered in different sites. So I thought it would be worthwhile just to make sure everybody was covered, that they come through the chapter 425 for the community design review. And then there's always a concept stormwater plan review. The entire area that they're covering and locating for the addition is already improved. It's all hard surface already back there. Most of the stuff is open air storage that they utilize in that area. Now it would be reverting to fabrication and then some covered outdoor storage with this addition, all permitted within the light industrial district. There's plenty of parking within the parcel grounds. And then if you consider the other parcels, there's more than abundant parking on the side. And I'm not aware of any parking issues that we've had on North Price Road with the Murphy Company and such. And we do have some visuals in your staff report for reference on that. There is one thing, there is an MSD stormwater line that kind of runs right along this area to this area. And you can see how they're kind of rerouting that around so that the building footings and the canopy are not over that. They'll have to, work with MSD to get that secured, but that shouldn't be an issue for the commission in terms of the review. And I will just kind of highlight it. It goes right here, right now. And what they're doing, you can see in your plans. They would reroute that to go around this way.
Did you
And
say
then-
that was a stormwater drain or?
Yes, mhm.
Stormwater, okay. So I assume they're just gonna connect in their downspouts into.
On 2 sides, yes, so in there. So we are asking for the commission to consider action via community design review concept stormwater management plan. Be glad to answer any specific questions. Now we have representatives both with the architect and Murphy that are here.
Go ahead, Karen.
I just have a question about the canopy.
Mhm.
Is that, what's that made of? Is that gonna be a hard top?
Yeah, there'll be a roof, an extension of the roof area here going further out.
Okay, so it's a hard surface.
Yes,
not-
yes.
so- Okay,
Yeah. Not a fabric or anything like that.
right, so,
And what's it made of?
I'll let them, I believe it's a steel enclosed structure, if you can come up to.
And when you do come up, make sure you state your name and address for the record.
Yep.
Okay.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ankit Darda. I'm on behalf of Brian Ivy, Idea Architects. Question about the material for the roof extension or the canopy. It's basically existing metal building, what we're gonna extend out and create like a same corrugated metal cover canopy on the top of that extension. So as you can see in the renderings, that same material is extruding all the way.
And then one other quick question, inside the canopy, you're going to be doing fabrication or are you?
No, it's just for loading and unloading area. There is no no work will be going around in that canopy, under that
Okay.
canopy. Yeah.
Do you know if Murphy's adding a significant number of people?
I
Yeah.
will let Dave answer that because he's from Murphy here.
Yeah, perfect.
So
I'm Dave Book with Murphy Company. I'm Vice President of Purchasing in our facilities. So there is not a distinct number of additional employees. We will be able to do more fabrication, which could result in a number of additional employees. But I don't have a specific count for you. If you wanted me to guess, I would say we might be able to put an additional 5 employees in there doing fabrication.
So it sounds pretty small.
It is not a large number.
Yeah.
The product that we handle in there is pretty bulky. You know, it's primarily pipe fabrication and we're, you know, a lot of spools that are 20+ foot long. So it's voluminous, but it doesn't take a large number of people to handle that product. And the time intensive part of our work is you know, cutting, forming, welding. And then of course the material handling that goes along with all that.
Good. Anyone else have any specific?
I just want to make sure I heard Carlos right. Are they attaching the downspouts into the stormwater directly? Or are they coming onto the parking lot?
That is actually under discussion currently between our civil engineer and MSD. I think MSD is directing us to connect them directly into the new sewer, I think is what they're pointing us to, and which of course we'll do that if that's the MSD recommendation.
I mean, that's what we would like to see that. It would improve our area and everything like
Yeah.
that you can grab that and drain that. So I think our board would like to see that. I could tell you that.
Okay. And I see no reason to
You're
take
opening
except-
it up, you're opening it up anyway. This is
Yeah, I
the
mean,
perfect
the
time to-
more water we can keep off the surface is better for us. And
Exactly.
so, and the downspouts and the sewer is going right around the perimeter of the building. So unless there's some prohibition against that, which I'm not aware of.
No, we want that.
Yeah, and MSD is asking for that clarification of our civil engineer, so I'm pretty sure the answer will be certainly.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yep.
Good. Anyone else have any questions or comments? Thank you.
Okay, thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. So at this time, is there anybody in the audience that has any public comments related to this agenda item? Seeing none, Carlos, will you please confirm that there's nobody online?
Yes, Chairman, bear with me 1 second here. And at this time, there are no attendees, Chairman.
Okay. If there's no other further discussion, do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Thanks, Tim.
That's fair. Yeah, of course. Motion to approve the petition for community design and concept stormwater management plan reviews for the addition and improvements at 1341 North Price Road as presented in the memorandum from the Department of Planning and Community Development dated March 7th, 2024, subject to any staff recommendations or conditions noted herein.
Motion's been made by Brian Lewis. Do I hear a second?
Second.
And seconded by Tim Spiegelglass. Carlos, you please call the vote.
Commissioner Wallach? Approved. Bear with me 1 second. Commissioner Spiegelglass?
Approved.
Commissioner Rosenberg?
Approved.
Commissioner Ragsdale?
Approved.
Commissioner Lewis?
Approved.
Commissioner Wagner?
Approved.
Commissioner Jurgell?
Approved.
Motion passes unanimously. The next step in this process would be the application for the necessary building permits. I did note to your architect engineer, the fire chief did have some questions about the fire department connector in there, so he'll coordinate with you once the permitting, as you guys go through the permitting. Okay. Thanks.
And we appreciate your further investment into the Olivet area. So we thank you for being a part of us.
We're delighted to be out
Good. Thank you. Okay. Lost my agenda. There it is. Okay, we'll move on to the next agenda, and this is other business, and this is item A 23 St. Alfred Road.
Yes. Chairman, back in 2021, before the pandemic, and there seems so long ago, we had approved a new home for 23 St. Alfred Road, came before the commission. It's a determinus of St. Alfred. It's up on a hill. And there it went through the commission process and received its full approval. And who was to assume that the pandemic was going to change quite a bit of the process no application for the construction of the home ever came in. So there is a section in our code that says the approvals by the commission are only good for 12 months. We changed that back in 2007 when we had the 2008 recession. where we were getting just, we, several homes that were approved by the commission were no longer being built, given the conditions of the economy in there. So in an effort to try to close the books on a lot of them, we amended the code and reduced the extent of how long a site plan review is from 24 months to 12 months. A community design review, meaning that if the lot was in full compliance with the district recommendations, does not have a termination of how long the approval lasts. And that might be something we need to address in our ordinance. In the case of 23 St. Alfred, they have a narrow width. It's a little over 80 feet and a little bit below 90 feet in there. So that required site plan review. And then that site plan review expired in 2022. A couple of weeks ago, the original petitioner approached us saying that they were ready to start construction and go through the permitting process. When we noted to them, sorry, the way the code is written, we have to go back to the commission. And they're trying to work with them. I told them we would bring this to the commission in two forms. One, tonight to see, given the pandemic conditions and all that happened, if the commission would be comfortable reapproving the original site plan community design review of the petition. In terms of the footprint, there are no changes in their process, but there's been tweaks to the building, and I'll go over those with you. If the commission felt that like a full review would be required and necessary, then we would ask that we'd bring them back on at our next meeting. I think overall, the most important thing is, compliance with the stormwater management plans, which they have. There are no proposed changes to that. The building mass or footprint is overall the same, but they did redesign the upper level, which created more breaks in the mass. I think the commission would find. And then my concern during the review was the selection of exterior materials, and there, which the commission found fine. And because there's no brick on this, it's kind of like an ephes type of house, and the commission was fine with that. They're proposing now to maintain the front elevation with the ephes, but then add siding on the other three sides. So those, I want to make sure that you're aware of those as you're going through the process. I'll show you some quick slides in there, but most importantly, the placement, the footprint, the storm detention, the overall height, and even really the building mass is exactly like it was in 2021 in there. In your application, you'll see some of the changes. This is let's see here. This is being the front facing St. Alfred. You have a driveway and you have two garages on either side, and then the house was a perfect square in there. And there's the revisions. It's no longer a perfect square, as they've cut out a part of the room on the first level, which has caused some redesign here. So actually the overall building mass is now broken down even further than it was before, because before it was almost a perfect cube and all that. And then overall, in terms of materials, you can see the elevation changes here, where the overall stucco would be used along the front in here, and the sides would become more of a siding, as illustrated here, along with the rear in there. So those are the things I wanted to bring to your attention, and then kind of gather your thoughts on how comfortable the commission is on that. When we issued this, there was no comments or any public comments that were forwarded or entertained at that time of the meeting.
I remember this, since it was a unique house, and I remember we all kind of liked it, does anybody have any questions or comments now seeing it again with the revisions? Go ahead, Carol.
Yeah, I'm actually not sure. I have mixed feelings about it, frankly.
Okay.
The west exterior elevation looks busy to me. And I'm not sure about that, but I just wanted to point that out, and I think that's, we need some feedback from the people who are better at design than I. And I'm not I'm not sure that I'm comfortable with the idea of ephes on the front and then regular hardy board on the side. I'm just trying to kind of envision what that's going to be like and how that's going to, the two different materials are gonna meet. So I'm just,
Is it going to be hardy board or other types of siding?
It's other types of siding. I don't believe it's hardy board
Okay.
in there.
other types of side.
It's just a lap siding, kind of line of lap siding.
I'm just not, I don't quite have a good visual image of how that's gonna present with the front being ephes and the sides being an abrupt change. And just,
I'm an engineer, so I'll
yeah,
defer.
I'm just looking at design.
Tim, do you have any thoughts on it?
I'm a little bit more on Carol's side that I think that's a lot of siding. That when, if I remember correctly, we really approved it because it was all ephes going all the way around the house. And ephes is a good product, or stucco, however you want to say it, and I believe they were gonna do some special stucco, if I remember correctly. And now we're stuck with siding, on all the sides, I'm okay with the windows and everything. I just think that that's a lot of siding without any masonry.
Remember, it's just the sides. The fronts is going to have all stucco, including the sides of the garages that are, there.
Yeah, I understand the sides, but to the neighbors, the sides are more important, if not just as, I'm just not sure.
Carlos, is there a way to see that on Google Maps of, like the street, what we're gonna see from the street?
Sure. Here's the terminus, and then this is the lot in question. So I'm gonna go a little bit before it, because you get a better view as the topography changes. From that house, this house will be here, and then it's this structure here.
Could you maybe scroll back so it brings us into an aerial view? Just when you scroll back a little bit more.
But then I've been having problems in terms of trying to get into the 3-dimensional.
Hmm.
Bear with me 1 second here.
If we go back to the map view, change it to a satellite, that might be,
Okay, so I'm into there. Here are my layers.
Mhm.
And there's terrain, or is there,
change it to satellite.
there we go. Hopefully that'd be great. Thank you, sir.
And then don't do that, just
Right.
scroll,
Oops.
Yeah, for some reason, it doesn't show your 3D dimension.
Yeah, it
Three-
stopped doing that, and I don't know if it was an update that I had. And I thought it was like if you got the guy in there and then you went like really close, like you were saying, and then you backed up.
Yeah,
So Carlos, how far does that garage sit back from that street?
Sure. Bear with me 1 second. I can get
No
that.
problem.
Here's a 40-foot building line is right along here,
Mhm.
and then you have an additional 15. So it's about 51 feet from the right of way. So a little bit of over 60 feet from the curb.
And what's it relation to the adjacent house? There it
Down
is.
here.
Yeah.
They're set back a little bit further. These are some of the deeper lots.
Mhm.
And
I think almost we need like a visual of what the ephes and the siding side by side next to each other might look like. And I don't know if we could find something similar like on Google.
I'm not sure if that's really the problem, or the mass of the siding is more the problem. How they connect it to,
Yeah.
I'm not sure is in how they look, I get, but I think
Okay.
it's that mass, and I would like other people's opinion, but I think it's the mass of. It's all siding on the back of that house. It makes me think of the houses if you're going west on Ladue, before you get to like Mason, there's a new subdivision that kind of went up there, and you can kind of see the back of the houses. And this is a big house. I mean, it's a great looking house, great everything, great design. I like the design. That's the only thing I'm worried about.
Yeah. But one of the adjacent houses, if I know, two houses up from that has a brick front and then the rest siding, also, so. And Carlos might be able to show that on the Google Maps.
yeah,
You go up one more.
I'm gonna back up and kind of,
Go ahead.
Well, right. I mean, but they comply, with, it's like
It's not the
100%
best, yeah.
masonry on the front facade
Yeah,
of the neighbor.
I hear what you're saying. I'm just clear,
Yeah. But I mean, I'm with Tim Carroll on there when we originally approved it. I mean, I remember having a tough time approving it because it went against the design guidelines, but we all thought that it was like a very good material, very well designed project. And yeah, now that's changed, I'm not really sure I feel the same way.
I'm curious though, like to your point on the one on the right, it's all brick in the front, but all siding. So are we saying that if this was brick in the front, we'd approve it then, even if it was siding?
No, I'm not.
So you wouldn't approve the one on the right now either, is what you're saying?
No, I'm just saying that we're not looking at that one. We're looking at,
Yeah, but I think but I'm challenging in the sense, if that one on the right came in front of us.
my concern is I am concerned about the two very divergent materials meeting. I don't quite understand how that's going to look, and I'd like to understand better. I'm not saying I object to it. I'm just saying I need to
Okay, and
understand
that makes
better.
sense. You're worried about how
And
they
I
connect.
agree with Tim's assessment that there's just a lot of siding there and it's broken up, and I'm a little bit, yes, but it's a big house and I'm just not sure how it's going to look visually. And I'd like either some time to think about it, or maybe they can explain to us a little bit better. Maybe we're misinterpreting something. I'm open. I'm not objecting here. I'm just trying to understand a little bit.
Yeah.
One more thing is, I think this is a different kind of house with the two garages in front, and this brings a different question than the house that we're talking about before. And I think this is a totally separate kind of house that needs different attention to it. This is not our typical house that we see in Outlet of how it's built or how it's designed. We were never, we have the garages protruding out from the front of the structure in this one, which is totally different than what we do normally.
Right.
Right.
And I think that's part of this problem that we're having and visualizing it. If it was a flat front with masonry just like that, I think that's a different scenario.
Yeah, I
Okay,
think they've expressed that well. I mean, there's just a number of things here that are different enough that I feel I need a better understanding of the whole before I.
Well, it
Just
sounds
before I
like we're not
proceed.
gonna be able to prove it, right now. So it sounds like we want to go with the review again next week.
That they want to go back to what was originally approved by the commission, and that's what the commission will extend. But they have that choice if they want to make that decision now, or I think they know the issues that are going to be faced. By the commission in 2 weeks from now, and whether they can address that or not, that's.
So maybe if we could hear from the petitioner, that kind of help us understand the change, why, and address some of the questions that we were talking about.
My name is Kumar Vadivelu. I'm the builder. And Anand and Sudha, they are the owners. And
Could you also state your address? You stated your name, but could you state your address for the record?
okay, I live in Baldwin, Missouri, 106 Log Hill Lane, Baldwin, Missouri.
Great, thank you.
And they are my friends. And this is going to be like all of you said, it's not a typical house that you see around here. And it's more a southern style look that is you see more of these houses in Texas area. And they like this elevation, and that's why we designed it. And it's going to be a beautiful house. Elevation wise, we kept it the same. And we went with the vinyl siding to make it different rather than all being ephes all the way around. And if your concern is vinyl siding, if you go back to ephes, if that will be better, we can consider that. The cost is going to be more. Or we can, we don't want to change it to stone and brick in the front because that takes the look entirely different. I mean, we are deviating from the original scheme that we wanted to match with something that we have seen in Texas. So I don't want to, we don't want to change the front if at all possible. We like to stick with the ephes. And hardy board siding or vinyl siding would be the preferable option for us.
Okay. Well, I think you kind of heard some of the concerns that everybody has with this, and I think the preference would be to stay with the stucco all the way around like it was
But
originally.
isn't that going to be a mass also? The mass is going to be there. I mean, if you're looking from the side, whether you have vinyl or ephes, it's a big house. It's a lot deeper and higher. So that mass is going to be there, whether it's a vinyl siding or ephes.
Correct. You're right about that, but I do think it matches the style, of that, and the only thing I could think of is if you could show us some pictures, of similar houses, maybe that are designed or built like this, that might be helpful to educate us, especially since this is something new. But I do think we, the members of the commission like the idea of the stucco, and we'll probably ask that question. If we went with all stucco here, would everybody feel more comfortable?
I think I'd feel more comfortable, but I think your idea of showing us some pictures of what this is gonna look like a bit, would help a lot.
Okay.
Okay.
Chairman, if I can add
Yeah.
in there, I hate to be designer. So in this case, and again, what I understand is necessitating the concern of the commission acting tonight is the change in materials. And I think that's a reasonable and a valid process. I mean, there was a risk coming in, but I think we had to ask to find out. What I hear from the commission, though, overall, the volume and the mass, not as much as a concern. It is because of the material use in there. So when Mr. Kumar comes back, trying to guide him in the process, there are two things that we're working here. One is, you know, in either it's all EFS or integrating the EFS so it balances out a little bit better and is a little bit more fiscal responsible, you know, a little fiscal eligible for the petitioners in here. If they kept what I heard from the commission, you know, with a full EFS house, this elevation, there's no issues with the front elevation and the projections of the driveway with the style as a whole, you know. But once you start messing with the materials on the side, it kind of changes that sense of the building as a whole, and then having those arms out there that are garages in there. If there is a possibility that, and you know, for the petition to kind of show, dealing with the elevation that would be to the north, if the EFS were to extend, and I was hoping this thing would let me color, but I don't think it's going to let me do that. It were to extend here on the lower level all the way to the back, so this all becomes EFS, then you have this interrupting roof line that this upper area stays as siding. In there, is that something, then there's that separation, at least on that elevation in there. And then in the back here, again, if that lower level stays all as EFS, is it okay to have that interruption in that siding, you know, that siding in there? The back's a little harder to work with. I don't have an answer for that. I can't design it to whim, but what I'm trying to get is if there's more EFS integrated into this, with the siding becoming secondary, is that something that the commission would be willing to work with? Because if not, and then it's going to be all EFS or come in with something completely different. And in that case, you know, they can make a decision, we'll do all EFS now and see what the commission has to say.
I'll look to you guys.
I'm sorry, I want to bring up one more thing is
Sure.
this roof has changed too as well. So now you're with an asphalt roof instead of the clay tile roof, which is a nice roof, which is the same thing with the EFS coming down. Like that's the style of the house that they brought originally to us. This is definitely different with that part of it too as well. I just want to make sure everybody's really aware of that. This is a different house than what we approved.
Yeah,
No question about it.
Okay. I think I gotta get a little more familiar with this type of construction as well, you know, to kind of understand it, because honestly, I mean, I'm reading the tea leaves, you know, here, but I'm almost thinking that there's gonna be some people that won't like to see any siding on it and would prefer just 100% EFS. Am I correct?
I think the style. What I'm hearing, and this was the thing, it was that style of the house fitted all together. The
Yep.
clay, the EFS and all that. And when if you look at the initial staff report back from 2021, the concern was this doesn't follow through with the design guidelines about masonry. But I think the commission looked at this as a whole, as a package, as a Mediterranean or Southern or Texas style, you know, stucco with the clay roof as a package, and was willing to make that concession in there. And I was fine. I supported that commission's decision, but my role was like, this is different. But it was a good different because it blended together. Now we're trying to mesh different pieces and pull from there. And that happens a lot. I mean, you get the reality of the cost. And I'm sure what it cost in 2021 to what it cost in 2024 has probably changed in there. But that's the reality of, you know, of the timing, and it's unfortunate with the pandemic and everything else that went along with it. But, you know, it was a process worthwhile bringing forward to the commission.
Okay, go ahead, Carol.
I think there are enough things different enough that I think we need to see it over again with the finished product. I'd like to have a better understanding of what this is gonna look like.
Yeah.
Some renderings, I think would help.
Renderings or example photos,
Mhm.
you know, things like that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying I object, but I'm saying I need to understand better.
Understood. Does that make sense?
So what do you guys expect from us?
It's gonna have to go back through a review like it did originally. And then we're going to have to, I think you were gonna discuss with your, clients whether they wanted to, consider putting EFS back in, or, with those added costs. And then if not, then I think you hopefully bring in some photos or renderings so we can better understand the look. And I think the concern is, I think everybody liked the way it looked, originally. It was a nice, high quality, but now with the kind of the change in some of the materials, there's some concerns. So, we're also, like you said, this is fairly new style, in this area. Other buildings, a lot of times we have a good eye for this, but not all of us here are architects or builders. Okay, so, having a little bit of education for us, especially with something new or a different style, could be helpful to us if we're not fully understanding the look based on what we're seeing on the drawings.
Okay. So timing is critical for us. We waited this long and then we're ready to start and then now, so what does it mean? We're coming before in a couple of weeks?
I think what I hear from the commission is you have an opportunity for you to come back at the meeting on March 21st. But I get the sense that the current design, there isn't enough support to approve the current design. That maybe having some additional information would be helpful, but I still get a sense that overall this home has deviated a lot from what the original home was. This is a different home now. And now it requires a different level of scrutiny based on the guidelines, because this no longer reflects that original intent in there. So if you look at this elevation, and just to emphasize on the change, this doesn't look like this anymore. There's a legitimate, the change in materials has really changed the spirit of that concept that was originally approved.
Okay. So only other thing I would like, if you go with EFS all the way around, can that be approved?
Good, Carol.
I mean, I hadn't noticed the roof. Tim, I'm glad you pointed that out, but the roof is different also. Which that makes a dramatic difference in the overall look. And I need a better understanding of what this is gonna look like. I don't wanna, I mean, if we do this, then, I don't know. I wanna see what it looks like.
Yeah, I would not feel comfortable, I could tell you right now, approving this the way it is. Now really looking at the roof and the sections of it and how prevalent that roof is gonna be on those elevations. If you look at the north elevation coming up and seeing the garage and everything, that's a big mass. And if you look at the top of it, look how nice that looked with the clay tile and everything. This is a totally different house that we're getting ready to approve. This is, I'm not comfortable with it, I can tell you right now.
Not either.
Even if it had the full ethos on there,
Yeah, I
because
think
it's different sightlines, different.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
it's a very different design.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry. All right. So now we'll go back to our agenda item and we'll move to back to item number 3, which is the 2024 comprehensive plan update and code revisions.
Okay, Chairman. From our comprehensive plan, well, I'll start off this way. We were going to initiate at this meeting, several changes that we could implement right away regarding the existing zoning that had references to the old comprehensive plan. And Jack did a review of all our codes and ordinances to find where those changes are that we'll be bringing to you in there. But there were kind of like these administrative type of changes in there that wouldn't really change anything to further the comprehensive plan. It was just correcting the references in there. So we are working on those in that. The council, Tuesday had a work session in which they wanted to discuss the sustainability components of the comprehensive plan and what's in place currently in our codes, and then where should we be going from that point on, because not everything within the comprehensive plan, while you guys are the stewards of the comprehensive plan, not all the changes are going to be overseen through this commission. The council has the ability, either through building codes, through police funding, public works funding, or parks funding, to implement various components of this comprehensive plan if it shows to. But the commission, of course, through the petition process, would be solely, encouraging, all to meet all our goals and objectives in the comprehensive plan. Through that, the other thing that the commission can do is recommend to the council the necessary code changes that will help us further, reach these objectives and goals in our comprehensive plan. So that being said, we went back in the 2024 comprehensive plan update and pulled all the objectives from all the goals, A through J, which ones directed in terms of sustainability. We're having a discussion about sustainability in there. The comprehensive plan has a whole lot more in there, but what we've been hearing is a need to move further along sustainable practices on the community, and that was why the city council hosted a work session solely to talk about sustainability. In doing so, under the current comprehensive plan, which is the 2024 plan update, we're supposed to encourage sustainable practices in existing and future residential development, to expand opportunities to walk and bike, to increase resiliency in our infrastructure, to implement best management practices, that's what the BMP is, in stormwater management, in managing stormwater, to be a leader in sustainability practices, to increase resilience to severe weather events, to improve accessibility and connectivity, reduce environmental impacts on the built environment, to preserve and enhance natural areas and habitats, to minimize impacts of climate change, and to further efficient and successful growth and redevelopment in there. So that's taking from goals A through J, the objectives of each of these, and each of these objectives has rather a variety of different potential community actions or steps that we can take to that. But they're all being thrown at you right now. We just adopted the plan in there, and you're being bombarded with all these objectives and all that, and we need to take a sensible approach in there. By doing this kind of helps us prioritize what we want to do and such. And that was a discussion that the council had on Tuesday in there, that the next steps really should be, we need to have a discussion about the comprehensive plan, and which, look at it in terms of how it provides us guidance and what are we going to do first, and look at it in terms of the short term, the midterm, and the long term. This is a 20-year plan, so we're not going to implement this plan all within our next couple of meetings. That's not the intent, and we didn't do that in 2006 either. A lot of the components of the plan and thoughts of the council was we should be, we need to move forward in terms of informing residences and educating residents and developers about the various information that is out there regarding the sustainability, whether it's links through Ameren, links through Mobot, the botanical gardens, that is. They have great websites of things that you can implement and look into, and they don't require any action from this commission in there. But then we can also look at those also as we tweak our land use codes and our development codes in that process. I reference both of those because within the planning website, pages, we have links to all these resources for our residents to use. Both there's a sustainability section, there's a stormwater section in there that accesses the Missouri Botanical Gardens and all that information you can find on there. Also the Deer Creek watershed, whether it's Ameren or the USGS, United States Green Building Council, USGBC. And there are in there. We need to do a better job to make sure that we can highlight or extract that information so people can find it easily. The council talked about, having a developer roundtable discussion, meeting with developers and having discussions about energy efficiency, the available grants, what is the market looking at in there, and what are the obstacles that they see in terms of trying to implement or provide those products to their customers. We always need to continue to advocate regarding sustainability, work with various local organizations like the Sustainability Advocates, Olivet and Bloom. Parks has a variety of other resources, that we can be working, together to further a lot of these objectives in there that don't require going to the council for code changes or waiting through amendment processes through the commission, and sometimes even looking or asking for some funding to do things. We need to review and minimize obstructions within our code. We talked about a home that's being built in Olivet that is looking to get certified as a carbon zero type of a structure. And in that process, the codes of Olivet have not provided any obstructions in there, but it's been one issue after another issue of trying to implement, these various components into this home that are, highly certified in energy conservation. And they put a Tesla roof, the first one in the area. They're reusing rainwater into their plumbing system and all that. And again, within our code, there's nothing that prohibit them from utilizing a full, solar paneled roof, or from reusing a lot of the rainwater captured in their in their rain gardens to be used inside the house for, flushing toilets and other wastewater type of systems in there. But within the region, or specific, I don't want to say within the county, the codes aren't there yet, or the expertise and knowledge isn't there yet. So they ran into a bunch of issues in there. So we need to make sure on our end that we're not being, a stumbling block in the process, and also that we also, again, going back to the next bullet point, that we're advocating for these changes, and whether it's through the county permitting systems or other things of that nature. And then we really have to have a discussion of whether, are we mitigating or regulating these structures? Are we going to impose specific standards and thresholds that builders have to meet in there, and how are we tying those with a nexus of within the comprehensive plan and there? So that was a discussion that the council had recently. And there, for us, what the intent of this meeting was to sit down and have that discussion. Well, what about the commission? What are our next steps in there? And I don't know. My role is to kind of suggest to the commission based on what I've read, and there's where we should be going in there. What are the short things that we can try to tackle with? What are the things that are going to take us a couple of months? And what are the things that are going to take us a couple of years in there? And where do we go from there? Right now, what we're hearing in there, and we found, council support, and because it doesn't require code changes, is, we need to update our residential development and design guidelines to further a lot of the principles that were, or the objectives that were back in this 2024 comprehensive plan update. The way the design principles are set up is that there are two components. There's the structure component, and then there's the site component. And we did that, we've kind of evolved over time, expanding the site component. The original guidelines were prepared because the size of the buildings, the mounting of buildings, the McMansions, there was all sorts of terms for them in there. So we were very strong in terms of the building design component of this. And then that, don't forget, you need a site plan. In 2017, we kind of evolved and we expanded the site components of it, requiring the tree preservation, the stormwater, the topography, for developers to be cognizant of those. The submission requirements also got evaluated, and we get more information in there and such. Though, you know, there are guidelines, and the commission, you know, one of the hats that you wear is, you know, how far you want to push these guidelines. And we take from your input on how far we push the developer on those guidelines. When somebody comes in and you know, I'm not a big fan of the 50% masonry. I can tell you that right now, but it's something that the commission's adopted. But when somebody comes in and there's no masonry, the first thing we tell them, sit down, it's like, you better get ready for this commission discussion. You know, regardless of the design style and all that house, you know, if you don't have 50% masonry, I've got to bring that to the commission's attention. And I can't tell you what's going to happen, you know, and there's been some that the commission has approved. There's been some that the commission required additional masonry in there. And, you know, and from that discussion, that's where I learned, or Jack and Don pick up, is like, okay, so the next time around, here we go again. This is what happened here. Here's the same thing applies to the trees, to landscaping, to stormwater. So when we hear more from the commission, or when we hear from the commission pushing us staff, you know, to further to some of these guidelines, then we start doing that, you know, on there, you know. So it kind of works in a two-way process. And I think, you know, I'm looking for some guidance from the commission in our last 6 months. All the new homes that I come in have provided arbor reports, because we're hearing more from the commission, and I think the commission is hearing more from the public that they're concerned about the loss of tree canopies and all that. And they're hearing that, you know, what about, you know, what are you replacing it to? One is, you know, the loss of canopy, the loss of significant trees. But then we also hear too, it's like, well, what are you replacing it to? Not saying that that's the solution, but that's also a component in there. So we're starting to inform applicants now that, you know, it's our role, responsibility to bring the removal of trees to your attention, to make sure it's clear to you in there. We just sat with a petitioner that's going to be on at our next meeting, noting that there's a significant loss of canopy. And I don't know, truthfully, whether the commission would have recognized that a couple of months ago, but you will see that, and that petitioner has been informed that they better be prepared to have a discussion in there. And how are they going to mitigate that? And we told them, you either minimize the number of trees that are going to be removed, or come in with some landscape plan, but be prepared to answer that question, because it's probably going to be asked. We did the same thing with regarding the stormwater and the size of the home. So we're kind of trying to set petitioners to come back to you prepared in there for those hard questions. The other thing is, you know, what we heard from developers is like, well, you know, look at your submission requirements. It doesn't say anything of a landscape plan. Okay, it doesn't say anything that you don't have to submit a landscape plan either. So we're targeting, you know, we may have to go back to the submission checklist, which again doesn't require an ordinance, doesn't require council consent, and add a section there that we want you to submit a landscape plan. We may have to add a section in there that we want you to submit an arborist report in there. Those are not things, those are things that fall within the umbrella and the realm of what a site plan review or community design review is in there, and we can implement those. So those are short-term things that we can start doing through this process, that I think that would reap a quick reward or benefit in terms of implementing the comprehensive plan in there. And those are just like some thoughts in terms of the residential aspects. Again, our submission requirements to require the arborist report, the landscape plan, and then I don't know how many of you actually read the project summary report. So every petition is supposed to submit a project report that answers 4 questions. I can tell you one petitioner that always has the exact same information for all 4 questions and probably the last 10 houses they submitted. Again, nothing wrong on the commission side. It's just that we're not challenging them in there, and maybe we're asking the wrong question, and maybe that those questions need to be evolved from the concern about, you know, mass, because I think mass is being very well contained within those guidelines to start asking about the environment or sustainability in there. And that might be something, again, we can start doing or changing. And then we probably need to have in the midterm, you know, this discussion on the rest of those objectives. And, you know, it would be my recommendation for the commission to kind of talk about and give us some guidance, but through this process, I've seen, as we talk about sustainability, just as like there are the three components of overall sustainability, which is economic, environmental, and then social. In there, within environmental, there are three components too. There's the actual building structure and all the efficiencies that are within there. There is the surrounding environment in there, like the trees, canopies, and soils and things. And then there is the climate and how you address the climate in that process. So there are three different little components or you know, stool legs that balance or keep to that. There may be more, or there may be different ways to take a look at it, but it helps, you know, helps us kind of narrow it down and summarize and put together things that we would want to codify and bring forward as ordinance or requirements in there. So just wanted to bring that out for the commission, and then start hearing you guys to provide us some guidance of what direction the commission would like to go in there. And just keep in mind, again, you know, this is anticipated to take 20 years to implement. It is not something that we're looking to do at our next meeting in there, but there are things that we can do to keep things moving on. But we have to be cognizant on how this shifts. What are the easy things to tweak? What are the things that we know we're going to have to go back to council in there? So we want to make sure that the council, council support is there, because we don't want to go one way and then be told no in there. The other thing about that is that the council also holds the purse string. And, you know, we want to make sure that the council is fully backing us up and putting these things as we start to move forward on and dig deeper into these aspects of it. So after that, Chairman, this is for you guys.
I know Carol has a question, and then we'll go to Brian. All right.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've got several items I want to talk about. First item, and this is probably the smallest item, is with regards to requiring an arborist report. Okay. Anybody can say they're an arborist. And I mean, I'm a planner, I'm not an arborist, but I could tell you that we need to do more than just require an arborist report, because the reports that I've seen that we've been getting so far don't tell us what it is we really need to know.
Well,
And-
before that,
and
I'm
let
gonna
me-
chat. I know, but I think if you're gonna bring that statement up,
No,
look at the past three.
let me finish,
Okay, because I take offense to that.
please. And one of the things that we talked about from one of the reports was that one of the oak trees that we saw on a drawing needed to come down because it has galls. Okay, so I wasn't sure about this. I messaged the botanical gardens who would know, and I said, you know, there's an old oak tree and it has galls, worried about it coming down. I said, should it come down? And the guy said, oh, galls are a natural parasite to oak trees, and every oak tree is going to have galls. You only need to take the tree down if there's something structurally wrong with the tree. Okay, I mean, that's what they said.
Right.
So, and I don't know anything about trees. Okay.
So I'm gonna let the mayor
So
pro
I-
tem address that, because they set the city policy and they can set what they've funded public works to do.
I don't, I
But
don't.
I know, but I think we need to look at this holistically, because I agree with you, but there's different views in all this. Those reports are coming from arborists. Do we want them to sign and seal it?
Exactly, that's what I'm trying to get
Okay.
to.
So the
if
last
I could
couple of them
finish-
I can bring up. I can show you their seals.
So my point is that we need, you know, there are some certified arborists. Maybe we need to think about saying we need to go up a level and we need a certified arborist, or we need credentials from a landscape firm that tells us they know about trees. We need something that we need a little more information than we're approaching this. But just getting a tree report isn't gonna be enough. We may be doing what council said, but it's not gonna help us further the goals of the plan. And Missy wants to talk about that some more. I'd like to go on and talk about a couple other items that I think are in some ways more important, but I wanted to put that one out there and get it off the table first.
Let's go on to your other one.
Okay. My other ones. We know that we have worked very hard and I think done a tremendous job in beginning to manage our stormwater issues and all of that. No question. I don't think we've made improvements and we will continue to do so. And we also know that preserving the tree canopy and native plantings are critical to all of that going forward. It's critical to all of us. And the question is, how do we accomplish all those things together? Because every time we have a new house, they're going to be focused on putting in the stormwater infrastructure that we require. And that's going to take up much of the lot by the time we do. You know, if we have a house with a bigger footprint, so they're going to be taking down trees to accommodate that. We have driveways that we need to worry about. We have hardscape, et cetera, et cetera. We've seen it over and over again. Okay. That means we're going to take down trees. So we're going to, well, I think that figuring out, you know, we can't do both of those things simultaneously. We just can't, we haven't been able to do it. We want to, I think requiring an arborist report, whether or not they're certified or whatever, different discussion, will help, but I think we're going to end up in the same place.
So what's the priority?
That's something we have to figure out. But I think we're fooling ourselves if we think otherwise. Okay. So, I mean, in my world, coming from the consulting side, to me, one way to start thinking about this problem would be to hire a multidisciplinary consulting team to take a look at it. Meaning we need somebody with civil so they can manage our stormwater, someone with tree expertise, and somebody on the planning side help us with our housing footprints, because that's the problem. And I don't know what the answer is. I know what happens because I see it. I mean, and I know that the answer is complicated, but I also know that if we come up with, we want to look at serious, effective solutions, it's going to take changes to our ordinance. I'm not sure what to change. I don't know. Do we just need to make our home footprint smaller? I don't know if that'll do anything. That has lots of other serious ramifications. I mean, what is it that we can do? And we need to look at what those options are and say, yes, we can do that, or no, we cannot. But to continue to just, you know, just require an hours report and say, well, we're trying to save trees, isn't going to do it. I think we're fooling ourselves. We need to look at it in this in a more holistic way. This is very, very complicated. We know native plants are better at absorbing stormwater than non-native plants. But we also know that it takes a long time for plants to mature enough to be impactful in that regard. So from day one, when we talk about a new house, whether it's native or not, it's not gonna have much stormwater effect. But if they plant some native trees 10 or 20 years down the line, yes, they will. And they do want to give them credit for that. I mean, how do we want to deal with that? And do we want to encourage that? Is it going to make a difference? And how? How is that going to make a difference in the infrastructure we approve today? I mean, all that, it gets rolled up into that same question. And my way of thinking is I've been mulling over this for God only knows how long now. I think we have to get, this is going to take a multidisciplinary approach, and we need some expertise to come in and help us.
To help us prioritize or
To help us
figure out.
prioritize and figure out, well, if we did this, it's going to have these kinds of ramifications. But if we do this, it'll have these kinds of ramifications. We need to understand all of that in order to make some intelligent decisions for our city. But, coming up with little one-off solutions isn't gonna make that much difference. So my recommendation is we probably need to talk about this some more. Okay, this is just to get some discussion going, to let you all kind of mull it over, but I think I think that would be my general approach to tackling some of these things in a more holistic way. We like to divide things up because we deal with the world by ordinance. We do stormwater here and landscape over here. And that's not really how it works out there. Okay, and I think we can let all these things work together as they should, but we need more expertise than what I know about to do so.
Carol, I think that's a good point. I mean, I do think there's certain things, I know I prioritize stormwater. Because I know it's an immediate, risk, to houses, that could cause damage to property, but maybe I'm wrong. I know coming from an engineer, I see things from an engineer mind. So I do think it might be worthwhile to see if we can, see what other people, in the industry might feel like, but I think let's also get some other ideas. I mean, I think that's important. I don't want to lose that. I'm not trying to shut it down, but let's also kind of talk about some of the other things. Brian's been patiently waiting.
Well,
So-
I wasn't sure if we wanted to respond. on
Well,
that.
no, and I support Carol in that, and that's where going back here, just worded differently. There are those components and we have to have that discussion. The thing is, and our liaisons here, after spending $250,000, are they willing to put more money out there to hire another consultant? It won't happen in this budget cycle. So I'm out till July, but here's our opportunity to say, we want to put something in. And I think that has to be in there. But what I'm looking at is that there are the things we can do right now that are within our sphere of influence that we don't need the council. And I don't mean that in a bad way.
Sure.
But then there are those things we're going to need the council to partner in
So,
there.
and that kind of goes to
And
my.
that is going to be funding.
That kind of goes to my question is, well, I agree. I don't disagree with what Carol's saying in terms of the approach, but I recognize it takes funding. It doesn't mean we can't make small incremental things. And to your point, this isn't a 1-year fix. This is how do we keep making progress, right? I like the idea of arborist reports. I like the idea of this. One of the questions I had just from a logistics perspective, it sounds like we could require an arborist report. We could require a certain type, whatever it is. What mechanisms or power do we have without invoking the council to say, okay, we're going to request an arborist report, but we also now want to require that you either need to, if you're taking down 5 trees, you need to plant 5 trees. And if you can't plant them on the property, I'm going to throw this out there, it's crazy. You can only plant 3. You need to fund 2 more that get planted in the city somewhere else in a park.
The
something
ideal
like
thing
that.
from our end is that when there's some
Can we do that?
consistency in the application, so the code
I agree.
always helps when it says one for one, or one for 3, or 1 for 5.
But my question is, can we invoke that, or do we need the council to do that kind of thing? Do we
In
have
an
the power?
ordinance, you need the council to invoke it, but I think within the community design review and the site plan aspect of it, you can push the envelope.
We have a lot
You
of
know,
weird power.
the,
over
the
there.
goal would be to be consistent.
I-
because
that's
then-
my concern too, is I want to be consistent, and that's where I struggle with masonry, is where I struggle with things like that, in the sense of personally, and I'm the least design architect engineer here, is that my thought is, if it's, the person's happy with their house and not, but that's a totally different conversation for another time and earlier in the night. But I want to be consistent, because I don't want to be like, oh, it depends on who's here and it's ad hoc and we just feel this way and things like that. To me, it's, if we're trying to do like for like, it's maybe a small change, but to me, more change, more trees are gonna be better for everyone,
Yeah.
regardless,
Yeah.
as a minimum.
And
as
like I
an
said,
example.
you are a review board, and there's this thing about the 50% brick. And you've approved homes without it because it's within a concept. And you've requested other homes to have more because of, you know, let's say the audience that was here in there. There are some subdivisions that want all brick sides, and they will come in here and they'll tell the commission and, you know, the developer, I always look at, the developer looks at as money is time, you know. So they want to go, they want to do the least amount, but they want to do it at the fastest pace. And that's where the commission really controls a lot of that aspect. If a developer comes in to me and says, you know, we're going to take this tree out, you know, I'm going to caution them, but I don't know what to tell them. Okay, well, anticipate putting 3 in there. You know, because we really haven't gotten into that discussion. I mean, our focus has been stormwater and like, and rightfully so. That is a major issue, in there. As we get, go ahead. Sir.
Don't we have a formula somewhere?
Yes, we do.
I thought we did, you know, and so can we talk about maybe using that formula in the design guidelines?
Yeah.
We don't know.
You know, this caliber, that you.
Yeah.
It's more
It
specific.
yeah, and it's not you must, it's,
Yeah,
you know,
Guides.
it's this, that.
There's the avoid the removal of 12 inches.
I thought we had we
the
went
caliber
further
of-
than that, depending on the caliber of trees. And it might have been for a specific area or zone, you know, one of the special.
Yeah, but don't put up a gumball instead of a oak or something.
Yeah.
I
I had a gumball.
There is in the subdivision code, if you're gonna clear.
No
clear a
gumball.
lot for something, that's where you're getting.
Right, but that would be an area where we would give, where I'd like to see us give more credence to someone who wants to plant a native tree
Hmm.
than,
I don't disagree with that.
than not.
Mhm.
We know over the long
So-
haul, that's
It's gonna
gonna
be-
be better for the
And
environment.
we're not gonna solve it tonight, but those are the kind of things that I think are quick, tangible wins. Doesn't solve the bigger picture, what Carol's talking about in terms of what should we even think about prioritizing? But it's a faster start, and it shows to me progress towards the city trying to move towards sustainability practices.
Hmm.
It helps the environment. It does help stormwater.
Hmm.
It also beautifies, in my opinion. It helps native plants, it helps native birds, and it helps native, yeah. So just a thing that, again, not gonna solve it tonight, but I would like to kind of put a guidance in that, at least telling staff, like, if you're gonna cut trees down, you better talk about how you're gonna put trees back up, whether here or you're gonna make it, I mean, again, I know it may sound crazy, but a donation to the city to put it somewhere in the city. And if we run out of space, we'll give it to someone else, you know? I have no problem being a good steward to that.
I am curious. The Park Service is cutting down a lot of trees,
Dead ones.
dead ones.
That's been identified as dead.
Okay, no, thanks.
Oh, there we go. We got the
Yeah.
space.
Yeah. Well, I think it helps open up the growth underneath too.
Right.
So
That's
I
right.
think, I mean, I know that's all part of the management,
Too much
but-
over that, it
Yeah.
won't let the young grow.
Right.
but I do think maybe the Park Service might be able to help educate us a little bit based on their knowledge as well. Like I said, if we can kind of, like how Jonathan used to give us little presentations.
Mhm.
It made us smarter, you know,
Mhm.
in that it made us, you know, more educated to ask the right questions. And so maybe if by chance somebody from the Park Service would like to kind of,
And we can
You know,
easily talk
talk
with them
about
to
that.
have that,
Yeah.
I think that
You know,
would be helpful.
Dan.
You know, horticulturists may be able to help kind of flow this conversation. I realize it's an arborist, which are two different things, but they're both knowledgeable with regards to the topic of the trees and plants and growth that would be sustainability. I do want to let you all know, if you're not aware of this, 5 invasive species have been identified by the state of Missouri. Legislature's going through, and 5 species will no longer be allowed to be used or grown in Missouri. And one of them is not bamboo yet. I'm like, why are they doing bamboo? You know, so they really said that they want to start with 5. And this conversation with the state of Missouri about continuing to identify what are invasive species, and let's not let these entities sell these products anymore in Missouri. So even at the state level, I will say there's some mindfulness of invasive species, which means, our state's becoming more mindful as well as we are.
Do you know the types of trees?
No, I got black thumbs and they're names that I couldn't even say.
Okay.
Okay.
Not honeysuckle.
Not yet, but I'll get that to you because I said that to him. What do you mean not this? What do you mean not that?
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Good.
but
Good,
I'll
good.
get it to you. I'll get that.
Honeysuckle and bamboo.
Well, I'm gonna
Yeah.
work on that next year.
Carlos, I think this is a great start.
I think that, it is, again, we have to look at it in those 3 components, the short, the mid and the long. And there does need to be some type of, I call it prioritization, but a roadmap to where we're working at. And that's where I concur with Commissioner Wagner in there, because when we start looking at the those 3 spheres of the building, the natural environment and climate, there's friction in between all 3 on how to make that work. But we are seeing developers starting to submit the arborist report. If if a petition ever comes in without one, or if you question the quality of the report, we've had that discussion. They're prepared. That's why it's coming in there. So, I would encourage you to challenge us or challenge them on the content, because that, it only helps us, because they'll know the next round, or it starts making things easier in that process.
Should we make sure that they have their arborist or certified arborist or that present? Because sometimes.
It could be, at one time, the commission always wanted the architect in attendance, and then we put the guidelines together, things were going great, and then they started, it was, do I have to be there at the meeting, and less and less.
Maybe they could just be available via Zoom.
Yeah.
It is easy.
Because I tend to find some developers tend to just say, well, that's what my arborist says.
Yep. Mhm.
And I can't question him, so. Go ahead. Did I miss anything? Go ahead, Karen.
Oh, so I'm one of those who knows nothing about trees. And so I think one of the things that would help me, and maybe it would help all of us, is if we had some more information, maybe had some education about what, something about trees from our perspective. What makes a good tree? What are things that are, caution? So when somebody comes before us and says, these trees aren't good, they should come down, I don't know what, how to question. I just have to take it on faith that they're right. I don't know what to ask. And I think some deeper background on my part would help me better judge. And I just.
Yeah, and I think, go back to the 2024 update and those potential community actions. There are organizations within our city that are willing to provide or coordinate those type of educational or extend out to other professionals to come speak before us. I did that last year, and went under that it was being sponsored by the commission, but the reception was questioned on that process in there. But I think we need to change that. We need to embrace some of the concepts that these other organizations are bringing. We don't have to, we're under no obligation to follow it. I'm not advocating for that, but there's some good things to learn. They had a professional from the Missouri Botanical Gardens that spoke regarding stormwater. We showed them our website and we showed them our improvements here at the city center, and they were impressed with the amount of information we had in there. And, you know, the city looked good in that process. So there, you know, there are other opportunities that we can engage those. And I asked the commission because I think, you know, there are some obstacles I have to go through to get those things done, but we got to get more comfortable to start doing some of that. You know, there's no harm that will come through these by, you know, co-hosting another organization's discussion on there, as long as we're not creating policy from that information in there. And that's what our comprehensive plan pushes us to do. And I think it's, you know, it helps in the resources, you know, for my staff, that we're not, you know, solely responsible or trying to coordinate something, that there's other people that have the energy and the contacts to do something.
I think that's great. Anybody else have any thoughts, questions? Go ahead, Tim.
I think the low hanging fruit or the best impact right now is to change the submissions for these developers and to have that much more defined than what it is. It sounds like what it is. I haven't seen it in a long time, but that would be my, you know, say, hey, the Arbus needs to be certified by blah, blah, blah. You need, you know, the civil plan, you need, you know, we're gonna ask about the stormwater, you know, we're really requiring, if it's not 50% masonry, you gotta come back up with it. So it doesn't rely on you, that it's more defined. Same thing with the tree, that you define that tree and say, hey, I'm one of the believing that the tree's gonna die if it's sitting next to the house, no matter what, whether we say it, the arborist says it, whatever. How are they gonna do it? And exactly what you guys are saying, and just put it in writing to say, hey, if you're removing that, you're putting 3 more. And if you can't put it in your lot, then you need to come to the commission with an idea of what you're gonna do to rectify that.
But you're talking about doing more than just adjusting or modifying the design guidelines. You're talking about putting it in code.
In submission.
I'm not sure. I think it's more the submissions, you know, when this is going way back, but when I submitted for my house,
Mhm.
we basically looked at those design guidelines and it said, hey, you got to be prepared for that. And if we're very specific to say that, I think that with the submission of the permit, I think that would go a long way.
So first start, just to get people started to think about it, then we can think code later on, but
Yeah.
in that, my question is, how do we get that into change just to get this?
And those are the edits that we're starting to work on, or getting prepared to start working on, and making those that come in before the commission.
Okay.
Because they benefit us in terms
Yeah.
of when they're coming in here and what your expectations.
And it's only fair if we give them that, expect to be
Exactly.
asked this. What we do with it is different, and push back
Yeah.
on, to your point. It sounds like we have a little bit of latitude, which we see someone come in and just wreck a whole bunch of trees. It sounds like we could push back and say, what are you gonna do about that?
Right.
One of the other things I'll note, if you don't mind, Chairman, is, you know, the commission is well within its authority to, you know, your site plan is your landscape plan, just like your site plan is your concept stormwater management plan. And we've had several developers kind of indicate, you know, like, you know, surprised that we don't require a landscape plan, or have volunteered to do a landscape plan. And again, there's nothing in there that says that you do not submit one in there. And that's something we'll start taking a look at. One of the things I like some guidance from the commission is, you know, again, at the process of the initial review, you know, you can submit a landscape plan in there. And if everything's perfect, all your engineering and all that, it'd be like a commercial, you know, that tree is going to be right where that tree is set. In a residential aspect, it never seems to follow that process in there. So, you know, either they submit a landscape plan and there's a degree of flexibility on how things move around, or prior to, you know, the final, that they come in with a landscape plan to be submitted to the commission for final review or something like that. So what I'm saying is, like, the house gets approved on day 1, but on day 180, they have to come in with their landscape plan for commission approval, because there are a lot of things that change during the construction process, where they didn't know where the utilities were, you know, the sanitary line was going to be coming from, or things that are that, or the one I heard is usually, it's not what my new purchaser wants, or they have something else in mind. And there's got to be an easy balance.
So maybe we talk about having them come forward with a concept landscape plan at the beginning. And then 3/4 of the way through, and they know where things are actually gonna go, they submit a final. Something like that. So we have a two-step process.
We're just adding to
Mhm.
the whole process though. That's the only thing of my concern, especially if we're only talking, if they're keeping the same number of trees and they're just moving them around a little bit. I think that could be managed more by staff, to make sure that they're, following up on their concept. If they're making major changes and reducing the amount of trees,
Then they come back.
then they need to come back.
Yeah,
I-
that'd be great.
I just wanted to say that I like the idea of a little bit more stringent landscape replacement plan requirements, because I think it creates an incentive for the petitioner or the builders to maintain their trees if at all possible, if they know that when they come before the commission, we're gonna have requirements for replacement and that sort of thing, and they might say it's actually cheaper, all things being equal, to keep these trees. The trouble I have with the arborist report is I feel like we're always gonna be at the disadvantage because we're not arborists. So even if we get a certified report, fact of the matter is that they're being paid by the folks who are making the petition, and creates an incentive there for them to say whatever they want them to say. I know that they're certified and, I'm sure they have ethical standards and they wouldn't intentionally do it, but it creates an
They do.
incentive there. So but what we do have all the advantage on is the landscape replacement plan, where we can say, these are all the things that you can expect to be required when you come before the commission. That's not going to be nothing. In fact, it might actually be easier, cheaper to try and maintain your trees, which I think is what our preference would be, all things being equal anyway. So I think we've got strength on that. I think we're always going to be at a little bit of a disadvantage on the arborist report.
We also have a challenge where not everything comes before us, right? And so I think the question is, we do need to probably change something or give staff the power, the direction to say, things that don't come before us because they meet all the conditions. You're saying, hey, you did cut down 2 trees, but I want the requirement are that you replace them. I'm saying that you need to have that authority and power to do that too. Otherwise, it's only going to be the things that we see. If I'm correct.
Well, another option, if I could jump in, would be instead of having the petitioner hire an arborist, that the city hire the arborist. Petitioner just pays for it.
Once again, budget issues.
Right, but the petitioner is paying for,
We give them
The
3
arborist's
arborists that they
time.
have to use, then or
Right.
something.
Oh,
right.
Hmm.
But
Right,
is it about the arborist or is it
Yeah.
about the building that's going there that's gonna cut down these trees anyway?
Both, that's the problem.
I
It
mean,
is.
I think it's more about, we're cutting down these trees anyway,
Yeah.
what are we gonna do about it? I don't really
Regardless of
care.
what the arborist says, if they
Right.
choose, if they say they have to come down, we're saying, okay, then you got to replace them.
Right, exactly, I think it's a.
I mean,
one for one, two
and I
for
get
one,
it
or
would be
however
nicer to
it-
keep a 50-year-old, 16-inch, whatever, but at the end of the day, it's to your point. If an arborist, whether 1 or 5 arborists say they need to come down, we want it replaced.
And the last thing I'll say, we're very fortunate that our council liaison will be essentially if all goes correctly, will be leading the council for the next upcoming, election year. And again, we need to know the direction of the council. And I think it's helpful when the commission is working to a common goal, or there is that backup or support. Because again, the commission can come up with all these ideas, but if this is not one of the priorities of the council, I'm not putting you on the spot, but putting you on the spot, we need to know, because, are we working only within our realm? Or is there the support for the council to further a lot of these sustainability objectives?
You know, I'm gonna just say from our conversation the other day, I think the council's gonna support you. My thought, Sam, was it's kind of like an appraiser, you know? You know, is an arborist kind of like an appraiser? Are they gonna reflect, you know, what the person's saying, I need you to say? I don't know that because I have two black thumbs and I'm not an arborist either. I know what a rose is, and that's about it. So, you know, this is something that the council will continue to noodle on as well. You know, I think at this point, the low hanging fruit are what's good and what's important. You know, what I'm hearing tonight is, you know, the potential of having an arborist, having, you know, on our side where, you know, we know we're not getting, you know, boomized by it being the builder's arborist. You know, and we can look at that as council and deal with that in an ordinance for a requirement. So I mean, we're listening, you know, we've been listening to the community. This comp plan is very different from the one we did, you know, many moons ago. We're now focusing on us, the homes, our environment, walkability. Whereas last time it was, we have nothing here. We want, you know, development and amenities and improve our boulevard. So, you know, we're hearing you. I will take this back. And as we continue along, there will be education of us, meaning the council, education of the community, education of you. And yes, will that education include professionals? Yes. You know, will people from all of the sustainability want to bring in their thoughts? Yes. Are they acceptable? Yes. But again, when you go on their website, what's on their website? All professional information. And that's what we all need to be making sure that we're absorbing, you know? And yes, people who are passionate about something can help the energy and the focus and the research for the staff, no doubt. It's where it is, how it's done, and being in a partnership. You know, so I think we're all kind of saying the same thing and going in the same direction. And it'll be an interesting year to see where we go.
We're all looking in the same direction.
Yeah.
We haven't started walking yet. We just gotta stay on the same page.
And it's a net zero home the man's trying to build. And I gotta tell you, the smoke test was done today.
Yay.
Very exciting. All right, Carlos, any more discussion?
One last thing, I do want to recognize Ms. Todd. I'm not asking for the
Yeah.
commission to speak, but she forwarded me a lot of information regarding tree ordinance information from that other communities have adopted in there. I think a tree ordinance is something, you know, we should be looking into and discussing. Is probably one of those midterm things of getting a final in there. But what was interesting in the information is that there are communities that have established the one for, you know, for how many, based on whether it's the size of the caliper or the type of tree. And others that have, you know, and again, it gets really hairy when you require that they give you a tree. But one was creative about tree dedications that, you know, if you couldn't plant them all on your lot, you know, you're permitted to do them in the right of way and get some credit, or you're permitted to donate it to the Parks Department. So I thought there was some creative information in what was provided in there, and I do appreciate that on that. So I do want to recognize her for that.
And will you eventually, you know, give that out to all of us so we can, part of the education process? All right, good. Thank you. Yeah, you can make a comment.
So,
Remember to state your name and address.
this is,
Yeah, it was on.
oh, it was on. So, Stephanie Todd, 7 Heather Hill Lane. And, like Carlos said, most of the other cities around us and most of in St. Louis County, they have some kind of tree ordinance. And so we can just learn from them. And, you know, about this arborist. So what I liked, so I have some suggestions. What they want from the arborist report is a list of all the trees and, you know, species and size and all that. And then the assumption is you will save all the trees, which, and then, so they have to give a reason why every tree is cut down. And some of them, like you said, it's gonna be too close to the house, we're putting in the driveway. But they have to give a reason why every tree is cut down. And then, and the ones that they're saving, they need to protect them, you know, because if they let their equipment drive over it or too close, they're gonna kill them. So then they have to have a tree preservation zone too. And then, like Carlos said, different cities have different ways of replacement, because you can't just do one for one, because if I have this 60-year-old oak, and then the developer goes to Home Depot and buys a little $20 tree, no, and so some of them, so they measure caliper, and then they somehow have to do like so many inches of caliber you have to replace with so many caliber inches. And some of them, one of them had like a point system. And I think the biggest tree would be 10 points. And then they even would allow you to use bushes, like 1 point for a bush in case, you didn't have trees. And so, so there are things to do. And I wouldn't think it would be that hard to actually put it in an ordinance, so then, then it's official. It's not like, oh, well, I want you to do this because I say so. Ladue just revised their one, and they actually had a landscaping guy that the owner of it is also an arborist, and he helped them revise it. So
Okay.
so, I mean, you can get help out there, like Carol said, and Earthways from the Botanical Gardens might be good to come in and just give a presentation too, because they helped me with planting trees in our subdivision.
Good.
And then I have one other thing, I've been going to the U City Stormwater Commission meetings. U City the Stormwater Commission meeting is real close. They're like this close to passing an impervious surface bill. And it's kind of basically what MSD does when they review things, that if you put in impervious surface, you have to account for it somehow. But theirs is going to apply for everything, but anything under an acre, because MSD only gets involved if it's over an acre, they have to approve it. And it's taken them a long time, because what they worked really hard on is a table that a homeowner can understand. So even if you put in a driveway, if you put in a pool, something like that, build a shed, and now you've got more, so pervious surface or impervious surface, they worked really hard putting together a table that your average homeowner can understand, so they don't have to hire an engineer, that says if you put in this many square feet of impervious surface, then you have to offset it with, like native plants, or the big one, like it was almost like 1-for-1 with native plants. If you did, you could put in a rain base, you could do all these other things to offset that to help. So, for stormwater, there's no silver bullet out there. All these little things add up. So if you want, I can get you that, their draft. Like I said, it's really close, because they've been working really hard on an easy table that the homeowner could figure out himself.
Yeah, I know, I think it'd be great.
So,
Thank you very much.
okay.
All right.
Let me ask a question. Are you saying that they're looking at homes that are under the acreage size that MSD looks at? That's what U
Yes,
City is doing with
it's-
that document?
My understanding is the U City ordinance is going to apply to everyone that puts in impervious surface. So if you like expand your driveway, like these new developments that are going in, they're bigger. The houses are much bigger than the lot size now. And
Right.
They would have to conform to this
Okay, let me maybe re-ask this. So there are homes that are not new builds, okay? They're
Oh.
not as large, okay? But they're gonna do something that's gonna create the impervious surface,
Right.
okay? Is what you city doing, creating that chart, focusing on those smaller homes as well?
Yes, that's.
Or only those smaller homes? Because MSD already has the measurables for the larger ones.
Well, it's going to apply to everything.
Okay,
But, and Carlos can correct me if I'm wrong, if my understanding is if there's any kind of development over an acre, then MSD has to approve the stormwater.
and that's why when you said that, I was curious on the clarity of, are
Yes,
they, you city then focusing on things that are less than an acre
yes.
or both?
Well,
Yeah.
it's gonna apply to everything, but yeah, they're actually focused on both, and so, like, one of the things that, if somebody puts in, like, I'm sorry, if somebody puts in a driveway, all they have to do is plant like an edge of native plants along the edge of the driveway, because the rain hits it and runs off into the native plants, and it doesn't contribute flood water to the storm sewer system is the whole objective. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it sounds interesting. I'd be kind of curious to how it compares to what we already have, in place.
Yeah, and
the
I've
differences.
been talking a lot to MSD, and MSD, they know there's issues with their stormwater system.
Mhm.
The only thing they told us, like, I pointed out one really big issue to 'em. They said, well, we've got $700 million in things we need to do, and our budget is 30 million a year. So.
Yeah.
so-
The challenge.
So, so it kind of comes back almost to what can we do with trees and native plants and things too then?
Yeah.
Okay,
Thank you, Stephanie.
Yep.
Appreciate it. Okay, let's, if there's no other further discussion on this, let's move on. And I think we'll move on to reports. Carlos?
Chairman, I believe you have a set of meeting minutes.
Oh, we do. From February 1st, 2024. Would someone like to acknowledge receipt of these?
I will acknowledge receipt of these.
As acknowledged by Daniel Rosenberg. Daniel,
Thank you, sir.
If there's anybody who has any corrections, please notify Dawn, okay? Thank you very much. All right, we'll move on to reports.
Just a couple of things, Chairman. They're noted on your monitors. Coffee with the Mayor, March 13th. March 16th is the deadline for nominations for the Olivet Business Award. I hope everybody's taken the time to nominate your favorite business and your favorite restaurant. And it's first time we're trying it. Creve Core's been doing it for years, and we're trying to match them up because they do the presentations at the chamber, and Olivet has been, not been present for all those years. And our Economic Development Commission has been working hard to get to that point. This is our first year. We're learning a lot and there, but it's still worthy of affording your nominations. I think that first week and a half, Ms. Doty had said that over 17 respondents had been received. So we're really pushing to get that information out. March 23rd is Holy Fest at Stacy Park. April 13th and 14th is a citywide garage sale or yard sale. The week of April 22nd through the 26th is large bulk collection. And there, April 27th is a native plant sale. That'll be on a Saturday. And then May 4th is our Party of the Park for 2024. And there, in terms of development activities, we've received the permit for the Audis. Grocer, of course, we can't release it till the plat process goes through, but we're starting the permitting review. They're also going through, there's still some MSDs issues that they have to get approved for their site to get set. But we hope that they'll be breaking ground within April. We're doing everything we can to try to push them forward in their schedule in there. I have no updates on Lot 3, which is the multi-tenant building that's going to be between the Aldi's and I-170, where the Paris Baguette would be, and the Smoothie King. And there, we've issued the permit. They just haven't started construction. So, and I know the council's trying to dig in to find the activity. Regarding Irvington and Ryman, that is the apartment complex that is right behind the Chevys and CVS. facility. They have applied for their permits. In there, it's a pretty extensive building. That we're probably going to use an outside consultant to assist us in the review to help, not to expedite it, but to conduct a more thorough review in that process. I think their goal is to start breaking ground sometime in May. And that is probably like a 18 to 24-month project before you would see any tenant occupancies on that space. Paddle and Pickle has been open. I heard overall there so far it's been a great facility. And then we had right next door is Latch.com, which has changed its name. I can't in there, but they submitted plans to already expand their office spaces inside that building. So we're happy about that. We had a vacant building on the other side where the vacant Enterprise building is. It's also in Dillman Industrial Park, where Virginia Tile had occupied two sizable spaces, about 40,000 square feet each. So, you know, they left when they consolidated facilities and Kansas City won out in there. So we had two spaces of about 40,000 square feet that became vacant. But two businesses quickly, within 3 months of it being posted for lease, pulled permits for that. One is a cabinetry, a high-end cabinetry maker, and then the other one is a countertop, residential countertop in there that they do high-end things. So I'll get some manufacturing and some retail activity that takes place for those two. And there, the applications for the brewery have been submitted. They're being reviewed by the building department, being discussed on there. And there is a company that is going in where the former Lamar's Donuts used to be in Olivet Center. That's a really tough site because in Olivet Center, where Party City is, and then you got the Dance Academy on the other end, there's a corner in there that's really tucked in, pretty tight, not as visible, but optometrist office is looking to go into that in there. You should see some street activity at Easy Storage as they're going to start working on the streetscape in there. There's probably about a month off before starting to look to occupy that building in there, but it's coming out really sharp in there. And you should start, if you go through the back towards Crabapple, within the next couple of weeks, they're going to start working on the green wall, which would be very interesting to take a look at and see. They have secured a lease with a tenant downstairs, a retail tenant downstairs. They haven't submitted anything, so I can't identify the tenant yet in there, but we're excited about that, and they should have some outdoor space usage for that tenant in there, so it should be a pretty great catch.
You don't even know the type, like food or.
They will be more of a beverage and snack, and they're without saying coffee and donuts. So, being that specific. So, and that's, I think that's all I have on there. If there's any questions about any activity on there, just let me know. But we're happy with them, and it's not a big chain name, so
And no drive-through, so.
no drive-through.
Yeah.
All right. Missy?
All right, thank you very much. It'll be really nice for the people that are a little bit more closer to Warson to be able to have a place to walk to. The northern area of our community is very blessed that they're having development and walkability and amenities near them, and I look forward to it being further up on Olive Boulevard. Two things I want to go over. The March 13th, the coffee with the mayor. Mayor Wiles' guests will be Bruce McGregor and GRG. They'll be talking about the Great Rivers Greenway. Right now, they're doing that path through Indian Meadows with the $1 million grant fund that we were able to get. So that process is moving along very well. Tomorrow, the council will be attending the Creve Coeur Olivet Chamber event where we will be honoring a police officer and a fireman from Olivet. Creve Coeur will be honoring the same, and then St. Louis County will also have a police officer that they will be honoring. It is something that takes place every year. You know, I was going to ask you about the green wall. He answered the green wall. I think we've had a great discussion tonight. Looking forward to, as Carlos said, you know, may God let me live another 20 years, well, what we're gonna have in the next 20 years from this comprehensive plan moving forward. So with that, if you have any questions, feel free to ask me.
Sounds good, Missy.
Thank
Appreciate it.
you.
Anybody have any questions, comments for Missy? Seeing none, anybody have anything else they want to add? Go ahead.
See if there's a comp plan packet on here in front of you, just leave it there at the end of the meeting, every, meeting that. Future meeting, you'll always have that comp, so I'll just keep them and I'll bring them back and set them up. for
The specific one?
Oh, it's marked on it, I can print out those. But, also just leave the clips, paper clips and stuff, so. I'll put those at the end of the meeting.
Sounds great. Sounds great, Jack. Appreciate it. All right. That being said, we'll adjourn at 9:07.
It would be in my name on it.